close, too close, too far, too far, too far, too far, too close.
All right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and get started. First of all, I appreciate you all for coming. Seriously, they scheduled us a little earlier than I would have hoped. We passed out the flyers to a lot of people between us collectively, but this is actually a good thing because that means there's more people on the sales floor. We kind of want to get back to the sales floor. So we're going to run through this and take questions at the end and just kind of have a photo op and just have a good time, vibe out, all right? So I am Tyler Martin, comic book creator, executive producer, and founder of Godhood Comics. And we have an amazing panels of comic book creators, executive producers, and personal friends. And I want to take the time to introduce them. So we'll start with Mr. Roland.
How y'all doing today? My name is Roland. I'm the creator and writer of a comic book series called Scarlet Ranger. And you want to know facts about me? What you want to know?
Oh, your name, bro.
Okay. Well, I'm originally from Richmond, Virginia. I moved to Atlanta when I was 8, so I usually tell people I'm from Atlanta. And I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah, same. And next we have David Crownson.
Hello, my name is David Crownson. I'm the founder of Kingwood Comics and the writer and creator of a series called Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer, which is being developed to be a TV show with Prentice Penny, Harriet Insecure, and it's going to be distributed through Disney. That's right, I tricked that mouse into letting me make a show about Harriet Tubman killing racist devils. Coming out October 2024.
There you go, there you go. And my good friend, and I owe this guy a lot, he actually got me into knowing it was possible to create comics. Like, I didn't know how to start, where to begin, and me and him linked up, and we were from the same community, so Mr. Marcel then.
Hey everybody, I'm Marcel Van. My pen name is Marcel the Loser, and it's that because it's only after we've lost everything that we're free to become anything. It's sort of this rock bottom mentality of just there's nowhere to go but up. You know, anything is possible. And I've been writing, drawing, advertising, and selling my own comics for 25 years. So I've learned a few things along the way, and hopefully maybe I can pass along some good advice to you.
So I know a lot of us, all of us collectively, are obsessed with comics. We love what we do. I know me, I know a few of us are full-time, but more importantly, we're passionate about getting other people into creative aspects. Comic books saved my life, and long story short, they saved my life. I was teaching high school for 8 years. I loved my students, loved what I did, but there was just something missing, and fell into depression and suicidal thoughts, and I got very, very, very low. And Godhood Comics literally saved my life. I mean, it's tatted on me. It's what I always tell people, that it's going to be the hill that I'm going to die on. This is what I'm going to die doing. And I think a lot of my colleagues, they may not say it, but they feel the same way as well. So, excuse me, fellas. I was a high school teacher. I'm very good about moving on to the next topic. So if I cut you off and we got to move on, please excuse me, all right? All right, so we're going to get right to it, guys, all right? So, as you can see, there's going to be 4 pictures for us with a question. And if your picture's not up there, then the question won't be for you. If your picture is up there, the question will only be for you, all right? And then we'll have questions from you guys after the panel is over, okay? Boom, boom, boom. All right, so how did you get into comic creating? We'll always start with Ro. We'll go over to Marcel, and then we'll end with me if I think I have time to answer. But I want to focus mainly on my guys right here, all right?
So I got into comic book creating. It really was a gradual process. I started writing poetry when I was 17 years old. From there, I started writing short stories, and then I was working on a novel. If you name it, I probably tried to write it. I write screenplays, I do all kinds of things. And I started reading comic books when I was probably in elementary school. And I remember the moment when I was like, oh wait, people write these things. Like, there are people sitting around creating these stories. And one of the reasons why I like making comic books is because it's similar to poetry for me. Because there's an economy of language that you use when you're writing a comic book that feels like poetry. You want to say a lot in a little bit of words. And so that's how I got into the medium of comic books.
I just was always a fan of comic books growing up. And when I got the idea for Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer, it just kind of came to me, but I didn't know what it was. I'm like, okay, is it like my parents aren't like, you know, producers or in film and TV, like my mom worked at Johnson & Johnson. Like, I can make some baby oil or whatever. But like, I was traveling and I saw a book at those like overpriced bookstores at airports. So I was in line to buy a $10 Gatorade and overpriced bookstore. And I saw how to make, I saw how to write comic books book by Brian Michael Bendis, who was like one of my favorite comic book writers. So I was like, wait, I'll make it a comic book. And bought the book on Amazon because it was like $80 at this place. And just spent the year just reading that book and also researching, you know, Harriet Tubman and all this other stuff. And that's how I got into it. So, yeah.
Nice. Marcel?
Okay, so I got into comics, like I said, I've been doing it 25 years, so I got into it a little earlier when I was like 7. There's a very popular children's book called Captain Underpants. You might have heard of it, by Daft Filkey. The book is about these kids who make up their own superhero, and they make comic books and sell it to the other kids at the playground. And I don't know, I saw that, I was like, that sounds right. So I started, I remember the first comic I ever made was a bootleg Captain Underpants comic, and it was about how this, like, I don't know, maybe some trash came to life or whatever. Captain Underpants had to defeat it, and I got my mom to do copies on the slick at her job, and then I think, I don't know if I actually sold that one. I don't think I sold that one just because it was, I think at that point I didn't, it was like, it was just cool to make a comic. It wasn't like, oh, I'm not actually gonna sell it. How do you even do that? But then I got into middle school, and so I took kind of a break, got into middle school, got reinvigorated, and then I started doing my own comics then, making up my own characters, and then I got my teacher at the time who took an interest in me, and she made copies for me on the slick, you know, in the teacher's copy, you know, at the copier. And I sold that to other kids in the school, and they were getting in trouble reading them in class. So I took a break again, but someone, again, I benefited a lot from people taking an interest in me. Someone took an interest in me, a teacher took an interest in me in high school. That got me kickstarted again about when I was 16, 17, and I've been going strong ever since. And yeah.
Nice. Thank you guys for keeping it. Listen, collectively, we can all talk about comics all day long. So I really have to manage these guys. We've done it before, especially me and David and me and Marcel. Me and David have been on the phone for almost 3 hours before talking about comic books. So I'm not being rude. Gotta get into it. Okay? All right, guys. All right. So what's your writing process like, guys? There's, as you know, comic creating, writing is essential, and each writer it's like a fingerprint. We have different processes. None are the same. So we'll start with Bro about your writing process, and then we'll end with Marcel.
So I usually, it's different every time with every idea, but the general process is I'll have an idea and I'll try to write it. It's not working. I'll let it sit. I'll let it marinate for like 2 months. And then one day I'll feel like a click, and I'm like, okay, it's time to write it. I'll write what I call like a discovery draft or like a zero draft, where it's no real structure to it. It's really just like, have you ever had a dream where you wake up and it just feels crazy? Like, what was happening in that dream, right? I just write it out like that, and then I go back from that and outline, and I pull it apart and see what's working, what's not working, what makes sense, and then I write my official, first draft from that. And so that's sort of how. Again, it's different every time, but that's generally how it works for me.
Yeah, same. It's different every time. I think sometimes I'll write like in a little like black book, and I'll write it like with like an ink pen, and just get it out of me, right? And then because I something about sitting at a laptop or sitting at a desktop, it just makes me feel dead inside. No disrespect to anyone that's in corporate or that does any computer work, but then once I've got it in a notepad, I'm like, okay, I know where I'm going. I know what to shoot for when I type it. I'll start, typing it out on a script, and then I'll email it to, my editor, and then she'll have some notes, or she'll be like, oh, this is great, oh, this is bad, then we fight, cuss each other out. And then we have a comic book that we send to an illustrator. And that's how you make comic books.
Marcel, talk about your writing process.
So I actually just released a video about this the other day because someone asked me what my process was like, and I was saying that a lot of my process is just a lot of me saying no to myself. It's a giant filtration sort of process, I guess. I can't think of another word for process. It's a giant filtration system to where I get these random ideas. And it'll be like, oh, that's a good idea. It's like, does that work with what we're already doing? It's like, probably not, so we probably shouldn't do it. And then it's like, I just do that a few times until something really hits me. It's like, okay, I like that idea, and that can mesh well with what we're doing. So let's write that down, and we'll find a way to expand on it later. Eventually, come back to it. It's like, okay, yeah, do a overview summary of what I want the story beats to be, and then, you know, you just go from how should it start, what should the middle be, how should it end, and then you just keep plugging in everything in the middle until you've got a cohesive story. And I wanted to include that first part about the filtration service just because I think a lot of creators have a lot of ideas. You know, we all have a lot of ideas. Unfortunately, time is our greatest resource and you can't squander it. So you gotta be very efficient with how you're working if you're not gonna leverage other creators to help you. So my best advice for when it comes to a writing process is definitely make sure that you're getting the most out of your creations and don't get an idea, start one, and then get another idea, start that, and now you just got all these unfinished projects. Be very careful about that. That's not special to comics, that's any creative field. Lots of people start things, don't finish them. So, yeah.
And I'll piggyback on that. I see a lot of creators in here based on whether you're influencer, fandom, or a writer and creator, we all have 100 things on our mind going at once, 100 different ideas. Everybody on that floor that's selling a comic book right now has to focus on one idea, and you have to execute that one idea. And if you do that one idea right, then everything else is bullets. Trigger, trigger, trigger. All right, so that's my advice as a writing process. Just focus on one thing. We get emails, DMs all the time at Godhood where they are hitting me with a whole bunch of pitches and this and that. And I'm like, all right, well, there's not even a script, right? So focus on one thing and grow that. Like, you know, it's kind of like plants and water. You got to water that one idea because that one idea is what's going to take you to the next 600. All right, so that's my advice. Great input, guys. All right, really quick, Marvel or DC? Bro?
DC.
We're not doing wise? You gotta explain that, right? Come on.
No.
Marvel, because X-Men.
Oh, he gave it wide.
Marvel. I mean,
for me, it's gonna be DC. So it's a 2-on-2. It's even, as it should be in the world, right? Balancing all things.
dominate. No, dominate.
All right. What kinds of plans do you have in the near future? We'll start with Ro and we'll go down, guys. Let's keep it under 30 seconds. We gotta get through this one.
Yeah. So I'm the guy who is working on multiple ideas at the same time. So I have about 10 projects right now that I'm cooking on, right? So some are in outline
But
phase.
after his first idea.
Yes. Some are in outline phase, some are in scripting phase, some are done scripts and we're editing. So they're in different places along the process. So.
Dave?
We're trying to release for Kingwood just 3 comics a year and doing the Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer TV series and probably to do a writer's room and start filming that next year. And something else that I made might be a TV show that I can't talk about. That too. You'll know when you see it.
Make sure I tell y'all.
Near future, I guess you could say I'm really just looking on expanding my brands at this point, building my platforms. I have a bunch of, like I said, I got a bunch of different ideas for stories. Unfortunately, I can't do them all this year. I have a lot of ambitions, some outside of comics. So right now, I'm really just focused on building the brand, building the platforms out. So when I come to y'all with this great idea that I think I have, there's someone there to view it, read it, get excited about it just as much as I am. So I'm in a building phase right now.
Perfect. Godhood Comics, we got about 15 titles in production. We opened up submissions, so if you have a comic book concept or idea, make sure you head to our website, read the submission guidelines. Let's help you make it, bring it to the God universe and make a comic book. As you know, just like David, and we'll talk about that a little later, we are also working on a television series. We're in pre-development, pretty exciting. I think me and David can both attest to that. It's one of the most exhilarating, but also most difficult things that we have ever done in our lives, and it'll get even harder. But it's definitely something that we're focused on in the near future, adapting a lot of our titles. So just look out for Godhood. It's year 4 for us, and we are taking off. So I appreciate everybody being here. All right, this is a very important one for me. I had to put it in here. What kinds of hardships have you had to face as a comic creator, if any, and how have you overcome them? Bro, 30 seconds.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing right now is going from the creative side to the business side, right? It's fun to sit in that room and have all these ideas and create these things, but then you got to think about the money, you got to think about the marketing, you got to think about how you're going to sell it, how you're going to get it in front of people. And that's been a struggle for me. I'm still struggling through it, right? The business side of what this entails. So.
And I'll say, I met Ro years ago. Our first meeting was at a coffee shop, and this was just like a concept. This was just a concept, and we got together. We asked a lot of questions. I mean, asked a S-ton of questions, guys. And
He was mad. He was mad.
not mad, but we got through them, and he, out of all the questions and DMs that we get, man, this guy executed on a level unhitherto. I always want to use that. And so Ro, it was natural when I was doing a panel like Ro, because he's a newcomer, right? And he has executed them. Like, it's just so impressive. So a lot to learn from him. Make sure you guys follow him and shop with him if you can out there on the floor. Dave?
The hardest thing is just time management, finances. Because sometimes you're like, shit, I just sold a bunch of comic books. I'm sold out of my inventory. They're like, oh shit, I gotta buy more stuff. Oh shit, like baby, cancel that cruise. I gotta buy more. Like I gotta buy more comic books and stuff. Yeah, just time management, because we're only getting busier. You know, like before I could, stay up till like 2 in the morning, writing this comic book. But it's like, oh, I gotta meet this showrunner in the morning, and I gotta get books shipped out, and then having meetings with different people about making, because now we're a company now, and talk to other comic creators. Now we're making toys now and managing all those ambitions, remembering what to do for Valentine's Day with my girlfriend, and we're seeing her favorite show tomorrow. But yeah, we're just having like being full in your professional life and in your personal life, and being balanced is. It's also therapy, everyone. Go to therapy.
Marcel?
Well, for me, my greatest hardship has been kind of a combination to time and money. It's just about, it got to a point to where I feel like I can make comics, I can sell comics. It's just, but does it, is it all adding up to an actual revenue stream that can support me, support my loved ones, all that good stuff, So I kind of went into my vocabulary is shrinking every day. Cocoon. I went into a cocoon state of just trying to focus and figure out how it all makes sense, with a CENTS. So once I figured that out, that's really when everything started to click for me, and more opportunities such as speaking at this panel opened up, and that was really the greatest thing, because it also not only did the money, when the money came, it actually helped with how much time I had. I now had time to dedicate to other things. And I guess real quick on how I achieved those was, as far as getting more time, I was fortunate enough to find a job that allows me, it's like a call center job, it's a work from home call center job, allows me all the time of the day to do everything except that job. So it's a very low demand. I get to work on my comic. I'm getting paid by some other company to work on my comic, and then I answer a phone call maybe twice an hour. So, it's little things like that, can help you overcome these hardships. And, but with a steady job like that, with low demand, it gives you more money to work with, you know? So it's really just about finding different ways to overcome them, and they're not that hard to find. You just gotta want to do.
Are they hiring?
Are they hiring?
I mean, it's been slow. Like I said, I don't know. I don't know, but there's a lot of call centers out there.
Bro, don't announce that.
I'll take this too, guys. Like I said, all these guys had a valid point. As a creator, I saw a tweet the other day that only 1% of the population on the planet are creating, and the rest are consumers. I mean, we're all consumers, but only that 1% can really step out there and say, you know what, I'm going to do this. And for me, as I said, I was in a dead-end job. I was teaching high school, loved it. Some of my students 4 years ago are one of my closest friends and supporters, but I wasn't happy. And I think happiness, we're in a society where finance has to trump happiness. And like I said, I just got at a low point, financially destitute, right? Didn't have any money doing my job. So I would rather be broke doing something that I love than broke doing something that I don't love. And I got to a low point, guys. I remember one time, and I love telling this story. I was so low one time I was on my balcony, right? I was getting ready to jump, and my love for comics. The only time I was happy, and this was since I was a little kid, with my parents divorced and a lot of things going on like that. The only time I truly felt happiness was when I had a DC Comics in my hand. I was reading Green Lantern, Justice League, or something like that.
You just said comic, brother.
So my advice to everybody is you got to figure out what you love doing. And my mentor said this to me. It's my 3 C's that I go by. My 3 P's. Sorry, I got a lot of 3 words. Passion, purpose, and profit. You got to figure out your passion. The passion is the one thing that you love so much you'll do it for free for the rest of your life, right? And because God put that thing in you, it has to do something with your purpose, right? And so you've got to learn how to make profit from your purpose. And that's what we all have done collectively, making comic books, right? I know me and David are fully retired. I retired 4 years ago from Godhood Comics, right? So, we have a good time. It's still hard, but it's, I'm retired, I can say that. So that's my advice to up-and-coming creators. Just you got to take that leap of faith. You got to go for it. And you got to make the choice. You got to make the choice, all right? Well, 30 seconds, guys. We got to keep going. All right, here's a question I get all the time in my DMs. I don't have money, how can I find funding for my comic projects? Actually, guys, let's keep it 20 seconds on this one. I think it's easy, let's keep it simple. Bro?
That's a great question, a question I ask every day. There are grants, you can look into applying for grants, Kickstarter, there's not even just Kickstarter, there's crowdfunding, there's all these different crowdfunding sites. I think those would be the major ways. That's another topic we could go on for days. Talking about how to get money, you know what I'm saying?
David?
Rob people.
Yes!
Oh. I was kidding. I was kidding. Do a Kickstarter. Rob white people. Sorry. I'm so sorry. And please watch your wallet when you walk out.
All right, I know we're pressed for time, so I just made a quick list. Crowdfunding, Facebook, day job, advertising. Those are 4 of the ways that I know for certain you can make a good, quick $100 to help support and produce your book.
Boom, guys, and I'll take this one also. Last year, Godhood Comics, we did $175,000 in venture capital, which means we took on investors. There's people out there who are looking for stuff like this to invest in. It's up to you to, that's why you have to create it, right? There's money all around us, and it kind of changes your perspective, but I'll go to piggyback on it. Kickstarter is a great way. Start the comic book, get it on Kickstarter, all the while you are connecting and networking online via social media, and friends and family. Listen, it took me 2 years to get my first book done. 2 years because I could only afford 1 page per every 2 months, right? And that was $60 at the time. And we got it done, and it was of high quality. And now I can make a comic book in 2 months, right? But I always tell people, set your budget and pace yourself. It's not a race at all. I'm glad you brought your son here because I curse like a sailor and I haven't said 1 curse word. So thank you so much.
And don't rob people. Don't rob people, son.
Exactly.
Don't rob black people. or Latinos, or POCs. Again, sorry in the back. Just watch yourself when you walk out.
So, my point being, there are people out there that will help you fund your project, And most of them are looking for, well, they want to know, have you funded your project? Right? Because before I took 1 cent of anybody's money, I spent $50,000 on my 401k for myself. Right? And so a lot of investors or people, even people on Kickstarter, like how many Kickstarters that we backed who have backed us, they don't give a crap about the book, I hate to say it, but they know who we are and they know that we are out there working our asses off. So you're going to be the one to showcase what it is you do. All right? So that's what I want to say. All right, guys, 20 seconds. This question is for Ro. Ro, you're a relative newcomer. How have you managed to deal with scaling your project?
Oh, I haven't scaled yet. We're working on that. We're working on that.
How will you manage to scale?
That's a wonderful question. I mean, a lot of this for me is I'm learning as I'm going. You know what I'm saying? Even this is my first major con. So, you know, I'm learning. I was just asking him questions like, so when you selling, like what you saying? Yeah. So for me, I just try to soak up. I get around guys like this and I'm like, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not afraid to steal that and use it for myself, you know what I'm saying? Because these are the masters right here, you know what I mean? So
we're learning, we're still learning. All right, so David, Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer is such a cool concept. How did you come up with it?
I was in Ghana, West Africa.
These are all questions from our mailing list, by the way. People that submitted these that we talked a month ago that we would be here.
I was in Ghana, West Africa, taking a break from America. I auditioned for this independent movie called Star Wars: The Force Awakens, directed by some guy named Jeffrey James Abrams. I didn't get the part. This guy named John Bodega got it or some bullshit. I'm so sorry. So I was in Ghana, West Africa, just chilling, relaxing, all cooling, and watching a Harriet Tubman documentary, and was just like enjoying my life. I was eating fried chicken and watching a documentary about Harriet Tubman in Africa, the blackest sentence ever uttered. Like cocoa butter just manifested when I said that. So I'm watching this documentary on Harriet Tubman, eating KFC, and was channel surfing, and I ended up on the ending of Crouched Tiger, Hidden Dragon, where there was this katana fight scene, right? And then when that ended, I was watching Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters, and I was really excited about it, but it was a trash movie. So later on that day, I was kind of writing my journal, because it was my first time outside of like America for a long period of time. And I did a stream of conscious writing entry, and these 3 things stood out. And it was Harriet Tubman, katana fight scene, and witch hunters. And I was like, Harriet Tubman, Demon Slayer. What if Harriet Tubman like new martial arts? And it was the choreography of Crouched Tiger, Hidden Dragon, but she beats up a racist werewolf. I don't know. And that's how I came up with the idea.
Nice. Marcel, let's just describe your career. Well, I think we already did this. Let's get this one better.
Yeah.
Tell us a little more about Marcel Comics.
Okay, a little more. So Marcel Comics at this point is I'll say I've never been asked this question before. I usually just say what I do. I never have to say what it is, you know? And what it is basically just my own comic label. I print my own comics. I make and, you know, write, draw, sell my own comics under the Marcel Comics brand. If you see me out there on the floor, you'll see that the Marcel Comics logo is right now a parody of the Marvel Comics logo. And that's because if you were to Google Marcel Comics, it's going to ask, did you mean Marvel Comics? And they will straight up just show you search results for Marvel Comics instead. You have to click another thing that says search instead for Marcel Comics. So it's, my whole thing was, well, until I can just straight Google Marcel Comics, I'm just gonna lean into it and have fun with the, you know, making parodies of Marvel Comics logos. So yeah, I write and draw my own comics. Right now I do a lot of crossover comics where I take established characters, sometimes mix with my own original characters and turn those into stories that are all, you know, crossing over with a bunch of other different characters and other universes. So I could easily make a comic about Superman, one of my characters, and Mega Woman from Godhood Comics, you know? So long as that's okay with him, I guess. But, you know, I just like to have fun. I like to create different stories and different possibilities, seeing things that have never been, you know, ever created before. I have a comic with Goku, Frank Ocean, and Clicky Cat from Steven Universe fighting Puff Daddy for the Dragon Balls. I guarantee you it's the only comic in the entire planet where you're gonna find those characters interacting. So I like having fun with creation. I of course do my own original stories as well. The idea is to use the established characters to prop up my own characters, in a more organic fashion. And I'm working my way up towards an original story coming out soon called Pizza. It's a bit of a coming age story about a kid in college who just wants to do something else with his life besides pursuing an academic career, and it turns into this whole sort of Dragon Ball Z meets Scott Pilgrim meets Gurren Lagann meets Street Fighter kind of adventure, and it's really fun. I'm really excited to do it, and yeah, that's what Marcel Comics currently is.
Boom, boom. I was counting 5 seconds. He had 5 more seconds. It was good. It was good. I was counting down. All right, this is another question that we get a lot. I know me and David get this question, and I'm sure you guys do. I can't draw. How can I find an artist, David?
Instagram, Facebook. I've found all my artists on Instagram and Facebook, or conventions like this at like Artist Alley, and you just basically pitch your idea. Like found Cortland and the guy who drew the first Harriet Tubman comic, and I just said, hey, I have this idea for a comic. I love your work. He's like, what's your call? I said, it's called Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer. He's like, we're gonna get in trouble. Let's do it. And then we took it from there. So yeah, conventions, Facebook, Instagram. I forget the name of that other DeviantArt, and yeah.
Yeah, I agree with David. And I'll also go a step further. I'll say, what you can't do is no excuse for not creating, right? So remember, budgeting is amazing. It's essential, sorry. If you can't write, you need to outsource that. If you can't edit, you need to outsource that. If you can't draw, you need to outsource that. And create the book, right? So I can draw, give you a face, a body, that's straightforward. I can't do anything else, right? And so when I found Marcel online back in 2014, it was the first time he took characters that I had drawn and actually made them digital. So I appreciate that, and I still have some of those. So to Facebook point, Facebook groups, how to find comic book artists seeking commissions, connecting comic book artists and writers. It's hundreds of them that you can be a part of. DeviantArt, like you just said. Fiverr is like my least limited one, but get on Fiverr, find it out. Instagram, you all are following us on Instagram. See who we're following. The artists are there, right? And if you, of course, if you need any more questions, DM us and we'll send you these guys. We do it all the time. David, how has creating comics changed your life?
I think I'm much more, again, my background's in acting. And with acting, I was usually kind of like nervous or like jittery a lot. But with writing and creating comic books, that level of communicating has like calmed me down a bit. And also, I can't explain it, where with acting, it's like, okay, I'm gonna do this by myself. All right, I'm gonna memorize these lines, I'm gonna show up, but with comic books, you have to collaborate. It's a team effort. You can't do this by yourself. You can't be like a village of you can't be one person. It takes the village. And that's like, I know I said rob people, and I was joking around, but doing a Kickstarter took like a village of people. You can still rob people with a village of people. So again, watch your back. Keep it in the back when you leave. You are outnumbered. I'm kidding.
Tell us more about Scarlet Ranger, bro.
Scarlet Ranger is a superhero story about a young man who inherits the title of Scarlet Ranger from his grandfather. And the story opens up when his grandfather's greatest enemy breaks out of prison, and so now we're, following this young man as he's learning how to, honor the traditions that were set before him, while also learning how to be his own man and grow into the person that he's going to become.
Oh, nice. That's a nice sell pitch. My Scarlet Ranger #1 now.
Let's go.
Oh yeah, we got one more question. David, tell us about Kingwood Comics.
Kingwood Comics is, I just founded the company. I always had the idea to do it. Because I was doing Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer before I was like, all right, I'm going to start my own company, because I was in talks with like Dark Horse Comics. other publishers like Lion Forge and Vault, and those things never really panned out or worked out. And other publishers, who I won't name, wanted to water down Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer, and like, or they were like, David, we need more slavery in this book. David, we need to see Harriet being whipped, okay? David, like, I feel bad as a white person reading this book and, you know, having a good time seeing, you know, reading this book about slavery. We need Harriet Tubman being whipped, David. Yes, someone actually said that to me. So I think I was in talks with other publishers, and I just kind of was like, I'll just start my own thing because I can, you know, if I want to release a comic book on Juneteenth, I can do that. You know, if I want to release a comic book on Black History Month, I can do that. With other places, I couldn't really do that. So Kingwood is where I'm from in New Jersey, and that's where I got introduced to comic books. And so and also when I felt the most creative. So I decided to just name it after, you know, my hometown, and kind of be like, okay, we can. I say like Kingwood Comics, where Black is king, you know. But I just wanted to also, for future purposes, just invest in other creators and do creator-owned work with like a diverse lineage of people, and make dope shit. Excuse me, dope stuff. Okay, he's on his phone.
All right, guys. So that's our last question. Thanks. I have to thank you guys for being here. Guys, I know it's very exciting out there, so I appreciate you guys for being here as well. Now we're going to take audience questions. So if you have any questions for me or our panels, let's run that right now. If not, that's great. Start with you. Virginia, right?
Yes. So you were just talking about planning things out. So how do you stop yourself from over planning?
That's for me?
Yeah.
Okay. I think, so my mentor, his name is Calvin Jordan. I actually named him the dad in the Destructive Comic series after him, Calvin. He told me it's the drive-through analogy, right? And if you're going to a drive-through, and that's why Chick-fil-A is so awesome. What you see is what you get. If you go to a drive-through and there's 100 items on the menu, you're going to be there for a long time. You might not even get anything, right? Or if you do get something, it's going to be the same thing. Versus having a drive-through with only 5 to 10 items, right? So you have to limit yourself. You have to set limits. We kind of touched about it on earlier, like you said. You have to focus on that one thing. You have to focus on that one thing. You can't run before you can walk. I mean, it's cliche as it is. So I always plan and process a timeline, right? I have my phone, I use my notes, I have a to-do list app that's just amazing. You just hit it and it takes the thing off. And so, you know, outline, script, characters. A lot of people don't think this way, but when you're creating a comic book, you're literally playing God. I mean, right? And, you know, just as he took his time with us and in building our lives, our children, our parents, our backstories, where we're from, what we've experienced, the trauma, everything about us, you have to apply that to your characters. You have to apply that to your characters and your stories. You have to build that universe in that world. And I always say this, and it's definitely for me at Godhood and the Antagonists. That's why that book has been so successful. It took all, we're 6 issues in. We got 150 issues planned, 7 spin-off series. The characters and the story will tell you what you need to do. The characters, a great character and a great story will write itself, where it just becomes so easy. I get upset now because I'm like, well, I want to do this, and they'll say, well, you know, we're not doing that. This is where you need to go. So, you know, just stop planning. Planning, and take 30 minutes. If you can clock in for somebody for 8 hours, or do this for 8 hours, take 30 minutes for your creative process. At least 30 minutes. But like I said, there's a list. I have what I call the infinity sheet. My infinity sheet, I wish I could pull it up. There is over 200 planned titles without a comics. Meaning, I take an idea, write it down, put the synopsis in there, and then one at a time. They're all in order. So you got to start with that one project, put your all into it, as if you are our God in that universe. Anybody else want to answer that, or we're good?
What was the question?
We're good. We're good. All right. Any other question? And who? Let's start. You were second.
Yes, thank you. Marcel, what company do you work for?
Makes sense, CENTS, or first one.
Yeah, I was just like, yeah, we're
Carry
in real time, we all like relate.
And I saw when it happened, I was like,
All right.
borrowing knowledge, not stealing or robbing, because pretty much that's all we got, is knowledge to share with other people. Y'all were so close to not cursing until you mentioned I'm trying not to curse, and as soon as that happened, it makes sense. It was like true right out right.
Him mentioning it was showing it was ready to bust. That was like,
Okay, cool. And my boy, Travis?
Yeah, so you mentioned like when you're creating a comic book, so when you're creating something, what do you normally start with? Do you normally start with the character, do you start with the story, or do you start with the world?
So I always start with the ending. That's just me personally. As I said, creative process is like a fingerprint. No two are the same. All right. So I start with the ending. Every series I did, from Mega Woman, GPT, and especially the Attackers, I know exactly how our main series of the Attackers is going to end. And from there, it tells me how the beginning needs to be set up, how the character needs to be set up, how the middle needs to be set up, the pace, more importantly, and then the world around it. So I always start with the beginning, the end, and I just kind of write backwards. But more importantly, character. Character. There's a lot of guys on that floor right now who have set up a booth and there's no quality there. They put a concept together, they found an artist, and they put something together. Your characters are what's going to sell your comic book. Hands down. I don't care what political agenda you are, I don't care who you are, what you identify as. We all read with our eyes. Whatever we're watching on TV right now, whatever we're reading, whatever celebrity we like, whatever our interest, it's character driven. So I get a lot of people that I mentor and creators, and the characters are just not there. They're not flawed. They're not real. Relatability. One of the things what Stan Lee did with Spider-Man, that he despised Superman. I love Superman, but Stan Lee didn't like Superman because he was just too far out from the everyday person, from the average person. And what Spider-Man brought was humanity, flawed. You know, he had to work. He had to go to school. He lost his parents. He had to deal with. He had to take care of his aunt sometimes. He could die. He lost loved ones. So make your character as relatable as possible. You have to have flaws. You have to have flaws. So that's what's going to sell you.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Well, I just wanted to say that, so when I first started writing and I would hear that, I would sort of get like, well, how do I do that? How do I do that? And I think a key to remember is that doesn't happen overnight. That doesn't happen on the first draft. That doesn't happen on the second draft. I was working with a producer on a TV show. We went through 8 drafts, and we still have more drafts to go. You know, if you look up your favorite writers, they write 75 drafts of that novel. They write 100 drafts of that TV show. So you can do it. It's just going to take you, if it doesn't happen as soon as you write, that's okay. Just keep putting in that work, and draft after draft after draft, you'll get there.
Yeah, I think for me it's figuring out the character and what they want and then not giving it to them.
Yes.
Or like raising the stakes. Like my next book is about a retiring assassin who falls in love with this guy. And she's basically like, I'm gonna ride off into the sunset with this guy, and then she finds out her final hit is the guy. And she has to decide, like, is she going to, you know, kill this man she's in love with, or is she gonna like kill these other assassins before they get there first? She chooses to kill the other assassins. It's called Killer Bee, because her name's Bianca. But yeah, thank you. But yeah, just kind of finding ways to just raise the stakes. Like this other book I'm doing, you know, Nightmare in Newark. It's about a girl coming out to her family on Thanksgiving, and she's really nervous about it. And in the middle of her coming out to her family, an alien invasion like erupts in her town in Newark, New Jersey. So she just has to like survive this alien invasion and still come out to her family. So she's dealing with 2 scary things. So it's just finding out like the emotional stakes and how that particular character will react to it.
Echoing what David said and trying to, I guess, what I was thinking when he was saying that, which might simplify it for you, your character's motivation. Like a lot of times, or early on when I was writing, I would just be more so executing a fun idea I had and just having fun writing, and then I realized, well, all my characters sound the same. I'm not sure if you ever had that issue where it's like if you put them all behind a dark, a wall. Okay, if you couldn't see them, can you tell who they are without seeing their face? And that really comes back to what drives that character. So when trying to create a character, definitely take into account everything these guys said. But I would think if you want to simplify it, just figure out, well, what's their motivation? Well, their motivation is that they're, gay and they want to, be free about who they are. Their motivation is that they're, like my character, they're stuck in the system and they want to explore other things, or it's like the character wants to be cool and they'll do whatever it takes to be cool, or they want to be rich, they'll do whatever it takes to be rich, So I think a good idea is just simplifying it down to what's their motivation.
Yeah, and we'll go to the next question. I'll piggyback on what David said. And listen, I'm a 90 baby, I'm from 91. Love South Park, so and Trey Parker. I watched his seminar, and this is what I approach to writing. It's the but, then, and now. Boom. Right. So if your character wants something, they're close to getting it, but then they want something else, then. Now they want to get it, but and, or and, not but you know what I mean? Just kind of put those obstacles in their path. Brother?
Yeah, so just want to thank you guys as well because I'm an actor as well. I act, screenwrite, all that. I've been working in film since 2014. I started out doing a kid show with my son and everything, so this is like life. Being in that creative space, you're like, oh, 9 to 5, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be my own boss. And then, you find out, well, you need this, so you kind of do need that 9 to 5. And so I, did the 9 to 5, take care of the family and everything. And then the 9 to 5 is like, oh, yeah, we don't need to do that. So now and so it's like, man, so really I'm just in a place in my life right now where I'm getting back to the core of who Daryl is. And so just hearing all of this is very validating. Because even, in the film industry, it's, a lot of networking. And so for me, the most important thing is getting started and continuing. But having a network, just really helps, invigorate the creative soul. So once again, thank you guys.
Absolutely, bro. Thanks for being here. And I think, one of the things is not waiting for anybody to do it, right? Not waiting around. Do it yourself, right? All of us probably would have loved 20 years ago or 10 years ago if Marvel would have said, hey, come write for us, right? But we're not going to wait for them, right? We're going to create our own thing. We're going to do our own thing. And that gets you results. When Godhood was taken off, that's when producers were in our DM. That's when people wanted to come to work. That's when people wanted to interview us or ask us questions. So I say, whatever you want to do not wait for anybody else. Do it. Figure out a way to do it.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback off of that. Again, I was in between other publishers to make my comic book. And there was one publisher I was working with, they were just a horrific person. So I just left the company and I got the rights back to Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer. And I think I just decided for fun, let me make a commercial about my comic book. And I shot it with my friends. You can watch it on YouTube. It looks good. I'm very proud of it. Shoestring budget. But that commercial is what got the attention of Prentice Penning and these other folks at Disney. And that was 2 months of me starting Kingwood Comics. So yeah. Start off doing it yourself and people will notice. If you make it, they will come.
Yes, that's true. Young lady?
Yes.
Yes.
So this is more just a general question for anyone. Do you have anything with social media? Because I am a social media manager and I want to be involved with what's going on here because I love it.
Yes. Yes, please. Exchange numbers.
Let's exchange some numbers.
Yeah, we're definitely getting to a place where I'm wearing 50 hats. And it's getting harder and harder to manage that. But we've connected online. Yes. We started to build that relationship, so definitely, I've already got you in mind. You and Frank, you're on the short list. Yeah, yeah. Any more questions, guys, before we take off and do a photo op, and then we're gonna get out of here so we can get back to the four sales and make some moolah.
I have a quick question, or maybe a couple for people, just to make sure everyone's getting the most out of this, great opportunity to speak with, all of us. Who is making comics right now? All right. Who wants to make a comic as soon as possible? All right. What would you say is stopping you? Time. So time to write, time to draw.
In general.
Just in general.
I know people who can draw. I'm not sorry like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay, have you tried using any of the resources we mentioned, such as like DeviantArt, Twitter, Instagram, or anything, reaching out to artists? Have you had trouble doing that? Or?
No, I know artists and everything already. I have that. It's just like saying, how many times I sit down and actually get the stuff out there.
Okay, so it's just having the time to write. So I like doing this because I just like to see what obstacles people are dealing with, and maybe I'm dealing with it, maybe I've dealt with it before, just trying to offer advice that way. So for me, when I come down to the whole finding the time to write, it's not about finding the time to write, because it's just I think we all have time to do whatever we want to do, and it's just about creating the right circumstances for you to feel comfortable doing it. So a lot of people like to have their space set up a certain way before they write, before they work, before they do anything, or they like to be wearing certain clothes, things that make them feel comfortable and confident. I would suggest to you find out what those requirements are, and then you'll know how to create the time a lot faster. It's like, oh, well, all I have to do is do these things, and I'll have time to write. Because really, these are just the things I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for it to be like this, waiting for it to be like that. I'm waiting for me to be feeling a certain kind of way. Once you know what those things are, then you can work on solving, okay, how do I get those things? How do I feel this comfortable? How do I feel this way? How do I be thinking in this mindset? What inspiration do I need to be pulling from? What kind of music do I need to be listening to? Whatever it is, there's something in you that's not being satisfied to find the time to write. I encourage you to very much try and find that.
And also, I'm sorry.
No,
real quick. I know we gotta go, but we gotta go. But also, 7 minutes. I listened to a podcast and the guy said, you're trying to get started writing. You think you need an hour. You think you need 2 hours. You think you need 3 hours. Give yourself 7 minutes. Start with 7 minutes. I'm gonna write 7 minutes for the next 20 days. Then say, okay, feeling good about that. I'm gonna go 15 minutes. Okay, and then you start to find yourself in the zone. If you do that, you give yourself 7 minutes, then you'll find yourself in the zone, and 7 minutes won't be enough. And you'll be going an hour like it's nothing. So start small.
And the right motivation will hit you at the right time. Like I had someone who wanted to turn one of my comic books into a film, and they said, hey, give a manuscript of the comic book. And I was like, psh, of course I got the manuscript. What the fuck do you think I am? I mean, what the heck do you think I am? Like David Crownson, of course I got this. I wrote that manuscript in 3 days. And, it's all good now.
All right, boom. So guys, go ahead and plug your social media really quick.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, Rolam, ROLAMB.
Boom.
D Crownson, D Crown Son, like my girlfriend's pregnant.
If anyone wants to find me on social media or whatever, it's right here. Just scan this. Did you mean Marvel Comics Universe? DYMMCU. That's a great way to get a hold of me. I'm Marcel the Loser. Searching that also is a great way to get a hold of me. Google's your best friend. Just Google me. I will reveal it myself to you.
Perfect, guys. We're going to do a photo op in front of the screen. If you want to kind of get in our photo with us, feel free to. If not, thank you so much for coming. As usual, guys, DM us, email us. Some of you have my business card. Like, we are here 100%. If we can help you with anything, we will do that. That's what we're passionate about. This is just not work for us. This is something we're obsessed with doing. This is what I do every day, 24 hours a day. All right?
But, I'm about to say, and going off of what he said, I'll be out in front of because we gotta get out of here, but I'll be out in front of there if anyone else has any questions or, a specific question that they think is more specific to them. feel free to, come over to me and ask me. I'm definitely there for you.
Nice. Photo op for anybody who wants to get in the photo with us, please come on just so we can kind of, social media is always good. Oh, just over there. I'm about to say hey to somebody real quick. Whenever. Thank you for coming, John. You got to get back to your roots.
Yeah, I do.
It's too bright.
Right, like Rihanna.
Oh, sorry.
I love Rihanna.
It looks like
All right, yeah, let's get in here, guys. Jay, you don't want to take a picture? One day. We out.
come on, Benny, man. The kid is a L7 winning.